Hello, in this episode we're going to be making money with Python. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and sorry I haven't been uploading a lot. I've actually got myself a new space and I'm going to be trying to upload a lot more. Big shout out to my current subscribers and my future ones. For those who don't know, I've got a big hairy audacious goal to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and the current date is the 17th of July 2020, and I currently have 336 subscribers. So let's get down to business. Whether you're new to Python or have been programming Python for quite some time, this is all about how to make money with Python. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, what we need Python installed, and we need our Jupyter Notebook open. I love using Jupyter Notebook. It's a really easy, quick, fast way to get feedback on how everything is running. And to do that, I actually use the Anaconda installation. So head over to anaconda.com if you haven't already. And what you want to do is you want to download the individual edition, depending on your operating system and whether you're 64 or 32-bit, you'll be able to download the Anaconda installation. Once that's installed, follow the prompts. It's really easy. It comes with a number of packages included, which is good for us, and then you'll be able to get straight down to business. Now, to make money with Python, we are going to be using the very famous website Upwork, upwork.com. Sign up for an account there, and what we're going to do is we are going to search for web scrapers. Now, I have gone ahead and found a potential job for us to go through today, which is this one here, web scraping algorithm. Which is on this tab. So what this one is asking for, first of all, it's $150, which is a fairly decent fixed price. Write a Python algorithm that finds websites with the format. Now they've got a format here of some numbers, .portal, and then the actual website, and run through the different variations of that. And then basically they are asking us to pull out the practice name into an Excel file. Okay, so that should be super easy to do. Let's go ahead and open up that website and let's have a look at the actual contents. Now, it's called the patient portal. It isn't the most user-friendly looking website. It's got a lot of information there, but as far as I can tell, it looks like it's just this number here, so 12693. If that turns into a 4, what happens here? Okay, loading a little bit slow, so we'll see how we go. Okay, great. Now it says welcome to, and it says open healthcare. So it's got different practices, and there is some consistency here. So we're saying welcome to the, and then it finishes with patient portal. Now I'm assuming that it won't be perfectly sequential. So let's have a look at number 5. Okay, number 5. Okay, number 5 seems like, oh yeah, cool. Welcome to the, perfect, patient information center. So a little bit different there. Interesting. So maybe what we'll do for now is we'll collect all of this text. Once we have all of the text, then we can decide which bits we want to basically find and replace. That way we're not going to be limiting ourselves. Now, how would we go about doing this? We would actually be using probably two packages in Python. One of those would be requests. So we can go off and request the web page, and the second one would be BeautifulSoup, so we can find the exact elements on the page, so the HTML elements, to find the actual name of the clinic. So let's get down to business. Let's just get started. So for now, we're just going to grab any old URL and we'll jump into Python and begin. So first of all, we need to import 2 packages. So we'll go ahead and import requests, like I said. Okay, that's been imported there. Shift enter. Now it's been imported. Next one we want to do is BeautifulSoup. Now BeautifulSoup is a little bit different. It's from BS4. If you are using BeautifulSoup 4, if you install Anaconda, that will be included. And it's capitalized B-E-E-A, BeautifulSoup. Okay, and let's just make sure we get that right. Where are we? Beautiful, and I think it's capital there. Oh yeah. Sorry, import BeautifulSoup. Cool. Now that we have requests and BeautifulSoup loaded in, what we're going to do is we are going to make a request to that URL. So we'll grab that URL and we'll create a variable name. Okay, URL equals. Now, if you're quite new to Python, all we're doing here is we've imported our modules or our packages, and we're going to go Shift Enter on that, and we've got URL, and we type in URL here in Jupyter Notebook. It will just display the URL. I can also say print that and it's going to print that URL. I can click on that and it's going to load the web page. Cool. Now you're probably wondering, hey Adam, don't you want to be able to change that number? Not right now. I think for now we'll leave it as is. What we'll do is we'll build our actual ability to obtain the name out of that web page, and then we'll go back and we'll iterate and we'll figure out ways to change that number, and also some exception handling. So what happens when we are incrementing that number up or down, depending which direction we go, and we don't find a match. So what I'm expecting to see is there may be 12,695, but maybe not 12,696. It was deleted, or they skip a few, and then they keep counting up. So let's go ahead and request the web page. So we need to create a variable that will hold the response. So to do that, we create a variable. In this example, I'm just going to call it response, and the response is going to be equal to, okay, we're going to take our requests. Request is a module, and we are going to use a method called get, and we are going to get that URL. Now, it is good practice to include some headers, but I'm just going to be a little bit lazy here and see if I can get away without including any headers. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't expect this particular website to have anything that is particularly smart around checking headers and that type of thing, only because I'm looking at this and it isn't very well formatted at all. So I've got a response 200, which means A-OK, that's been returned. And in there I should have an attribute called text. Shift enter on that, it's going to load up the entire web page. Now, if I was to try to fish out the title from just the text alone, because that's all this is, if we use the keyword type, it is just text. It's going to be a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do is we are going to give this a name of sort of HTML. Okay, it is just text. We'll call it HTML as a variable name. And then the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to create a BeautifulSoup object, which will allow us to interrogate that HTML and select elements. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. So I'll use the keyword soup. You don't have to, but a lot of people use soup. And soup is going to be equal to, now it's going to be BeautifulSoup, okay? BeautifulSoup, we're going to pass in our HTML as one of the parameters or arguments. And then we're also going to specify how we want to parse the HTML. Now, most websites, you will just use HTML parser like this, and that'll do a great job as long as the website's properly formatted of parsing that text into a HTML-like format. So what that means is now I can do soup.title, and here we have the title of the web page, which is patient portal. Now, it isn't the cleanest to begin with. I'm already seeing that. It's got title here. So I could do soup.title.text. And you'll see here lots of /n's and /t's. They're just basically carriage returns or tabs. And built into Python, we have the strip command, shift enter on that. And now we've got this beautifully formatted patient portal. So we're not here to do that. We're actually here to obtain this piece of text here. So let's have a think about this. If you are using Google Chrome, and most modern browsers, you should have an inspect option, and when I've right clicked and gone to inspect, it opens up the developer tools, and in there I've got all the elements. So what this is actually doing, let me just bring this up on the screen. I'm able to hover over each of these and it's going to highlight different things on the page. Now there's a div ID email login, which is basically the whole page, and then there's a H1. Okay, now there might be multiple H1s, so multiple headings. So what we might want to do is we might want to say, okay, BeautifulSoup, find me all the H1s. We'll have a look at those, and then we can do some smarts around finding this one. So to do that, it's as simple as saying, hey, soup.find_all, and what we're looking for is all the H1s. Now what this is going to return, it's actually going to return a list, and we know it's a list because it has square brackets, and list has a command called length, and we can see it has a length of 3. So it's found 3 different H1 tags. We want to use some smarts to find the welcome one. So let's have a look here. Let's have a look at the very first one. Now to select the first element, we do square brackets 0. And we've got a please update your browser as the first one. Okay. Number 1 is welcome to Dr. Richard. Now that's the one we actually want. And the final one there is Dr. Richard, which appears to be the name as well. So that's interesting. So let's have a look at that. Welcome to, that's the big H1 there, but there appears to be this H1 here. It's probably the final H1 that we want, but I'm just trying to think out loud. Is it going to, let's test a few more. We'll get rid of this. Let's test another number just to see if that's consistent, because if that's consistent, that's extra easy for us. We'll always just select the last H1 tag. Now, this one says welcome to, and we've got another clinic here. Cool. All right, I'm fairly confident it is always going to be the last one, but we can test that. So what we're going to say now is we have gone ahead and selected all. What we can do is, rather than, if we just go -1, okay, rather than selecting the final element, we go just always give me the last element, which is this one here. We can see here it's still, this type is a BeautifulSoup tag type object. So you can see here it's a BS4 element tag. What that means is we're not quite working with a text string just yet. But if we go and do text, here we are. We've now got the name of the clinic here, and same as before. If I do .strip, that's very well formatted. Okay, so beautiful. So now what we have the ability to obtain what they're asking for. So they basically want to, every site has the same format. Welcome to the patient portal. So we would like just the algorithm to run through in the different available number variations and pull the underscore from the welcome to part into an Excel file. Okay, that's really easy. So the way I'm envisioning that being formatted is 12693 in column A in the Excel file, and in column B the actual clinic name. So to do that, what we're going to have to do is we'll give this a variable name, call it clinic name, okay? And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to be quite clever, and we're going to build a nice little function. So a function is a piece of reusable code that we can pass in parameters and arguments to, and we can have it return an outcome. So let's go ahead and do that now. So what we're doing is we are just bringing all this code together. Now, it's not the correct way to format Python to do all these spaces, but in my mind, it makes it so much cleaner to put all my equals in a line, but it does not conform to PEP 8 standards and how you're meant to format your syntax. I'm the only one that's going to be using this code, and it works for me. I'm not part of a large team that needs to, build my syntax in a particular way. So let's go ahead and build that function. So define a function. Clinic name, okay. Now we are going to have to pass in a sort of number, okay. So this number here, and we'll give that a name. So we'll give it we'll call it clinic ID, and then we'll do this one here, which is just to define that everything that is 4 spaces in is part of this function, and function has to return something. So it's going to return the clinic name, okay. And the other thing we have to think about here is we are actually going to have to replace this 12695 with the clinic ID that we're going to pass into the function. And if this isn't making complete sense just yet, sit tight, it will in a minute, but let's go ahead and do that now. So there's a couple of different ways that we can actually pass in the clinic ID. So let's pull this out of the function and go through those together. So what we can do is we have the 12695 there. What we can do is we can actually use what's called an F string. Now F strings are really neat because they became available in Python 3.6, and what an F string allows you to do is pass in a variable or even an argument or a function or whatever. So I might have something called clinic ID, and it might be equal to 1, and what an F string allows me to do is use curly braces, and with the curly braces I can pass in clinic ID. And what that does is it just says, hey, because it's an F string, anything within the curly braces, just string literal, just pass it straight in there. So what's happened here is, because I've got this F here, clinic ID has been replaced with the 1, which is that one there. So all we're going to do is do the exact same steps, but just inside this function. So all we do is curly braces, and we're going to put in clinic ID, and let's just go through our code together as a team, and let's have a look and make sure it's correct. So we've got the URL, which is made up of this F string, and the clinic ID is passed in there, which is good, big thumbs up. We've got a response variable, okay, and that goes ahead and gets the URL from our request packages. We then use the HTML as a variable name, and we get the text. Now, this could be one variable, but we'll keep it broken down for now, just because it's a little bit easier for us to understand. Next, we make a soup variable, which is made up of the HTML. Again, we could probably pass all of this into here, but if somebody else was to look at the code, it could look quite confusing and slow them down. And especially if I come back to this in like 3 months' time, like, what did I write? And next, all we do is we find that H1, or sorry, we find all the H1 tags, and we're going to pick the last one. Now, we're working on the assumption that it's always the last H1 tag, which is the answer we want. And then because this is a function, we are choosing to return the clinic name. So to give this a good old test, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and just test it on the one that we know works. So 12696. And what that's going to look like is we will just take 696, which is that one there, and we'll go get clinic name, open and close brackets. We won't even bother assigning this to a variable. Okay, get clinic name is not defined. You know what I forgot to do? Shift enter. Now that we've run that, shift enter again, that will work. It's going off, it's taking a few seconds, and there it is. It's returned the clinic's name. So that's working beautifully. I'm very happy with that. And you saw how quickly we were able to get ourselves to the point of being able to build a function that went off to a website and collected a piece of information. But that's only half the story. This particular request here is asking for a spreadsheet which contains all of them. Now, we're not quite sure when the IDs start. Do they start at 1? And how far up do they go? So there's a couple of options here to get around this. So what we can do, because we're already, if you think about it, we're already at 12,000. We can do some testing, and sometimes it's easier to do that in the browser. So is there a 12,000? Let's have a look. Okay, that's loading now. And it's a bit crude, a bit of a basic way to do it, but we're going to go through and see, okay, there's a 12,000. That's good to see. Now, by that logic, if there's a 12,000, is there an 11,000? Alrighty. And so what I'm envisioning in my mind is, ideally I'd hope that most of these are in sequential order, which they appear to be, and 11,000's there. Let's see if we can get a bit smart about this and jump down to 8,000, okay? And what we're doing here is we're jumping down to 8,000, just seeing if that exists. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So let's start at 8,000, and let's just do a couple more, and then we're going to do some smart exception handling. So 8,000, 8,001. Boom. Sorry, we could not find the practice. Now that's good. That's good news. When we see an error like that, it means that we know something doesn't exist, and we can go ahead and build some exception handling behind that. But not easy to give up, so let's go to 8,002. Okay, where are we? 8,002. Different type of error. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Is there an 8,003? It's interesting there was an 8,000, but not 8,001, 2 or 3. Oh, sorry, 1 and 2. Is there an 8,003? No. Okay, it's super interesting. So let's see if we can get maybe an 8,011. Alrighty, let's see what's happening here. 8,011. Alrighty, bit all over the place, but there's definitely an 8,000, which I found quite interesting. Yeah, okay. How about 7,998? And you're wondering why picking these random numbers. 7,998's not there. Really interesting. How about straight up 7,000? No 7,000. Okay, how about a 5,000? Interesting. Error. Okay, so that's really interesting. So what we can do is, let's go back to our known working number, which is this one here. Let's pop that in and make sure I haven't been sort of blocked, or, you know, they've got some smarts around. Okay, so that seems to be working fine. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is, just in the interest of time, we are going to build the smarts that it will increment each number, but it will do some clever stuff around understanding when we're not getting any returns. And then I'm not sure if we should bother going to the trouble of then trying to skip in tens or hundreds to find the next number, or do we just hit this website 20,000 times? Like that's the trade-off. If I don't get any returns for a consecutive 50 numbers, do I then skip to the next 100, next 100, next 100? So anyway, let's try to understand how we would do that. Okay. The good news is we have this get clinic, which is really good. And we would like to go ahead and increment. So what we might do is we might build a bit of a program that has maybe a start and maybe an end. So maybe my start will be the known number of, we'll start at maybe 12,690, and let's go ahead and end at 710. Okay. And if you're not quite sure how many we are going to be scraping, that is 20. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a for loop. Okay. And what we'll say is for clinic ID in range, and we have a start and we have an end. Now, if you're not familiar with the for loop or the range function, let me go ahead and explain it for you now. So the for loop is, we'll start by printing it out. I think printing it out would be useful. Cool. So what this is saying is for and clinic ID is a completely made up variable that is unique to this for loop and not available outside of the for loop in the same fashion anyhow. In range, and the range has a start and has an end. Now, something you'll notice about range, it is up to but not including the end number. Okay, so if you did want to include the end number, you might want to do +1. Okay, so then you've got your 12,690 all the way to 12,710. Now, what's happening in the for loop? Well, here I'm just printing that, but ultimately I want to collect that information. Now, the best way to collect that information for now would be to put it into a dictionary and to put each dictionary into a list. Now, I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'll have a list, and my list might be called, I don't know why, but I always go with the word master list. It's such a silly name, but I create a master list and I shift enter on that. And all master list is doing is creating an empty list. It's absolutely empty. Now, inside my for loop, I'm going to create a dictionary called DataDict, and that is going to be, in my case, I always like to create an empty dictionary and then assign keys to it, but you can always just create a dictionary with the keys assigned. I'll show you both ways while we're here. And this is really as simple as saying, well, DataDict has a dictionary has a key and a value. So the key in this case is going to be, say, clinic_ID, and that's going to be equal to our clinic ID, which we're passing in there. Then the next value or key value pair we're going to add in there is the clinic name, okay? And the clinic name is going to be equal to, and you guessed it, we've now got this get clinic name function. And the get clinic name function, we are just going to pass in our clinic ID, and that's going to return the clinic ID, and it's going to assign it to this dictionary. But that's not the end of the story, because we have this master list for a reason, because we want to go ahead and append our dictionary each loop to the master list. So if I was to go ahead and run this, what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and it's going to use our, now I should call that right now, it will fail. I've got 0 exception handling. I'm expecting it to fail royally. And the only reason I would expect it not to fail is if when it does encounter an error page, that error page has at least one H1 tag, and all we're really doing here is filling up our IDs with errors, okay? Now I'm going to stop this a little bit earlier to see how we're going, just in the interest of time. Now the good news is, whilst I've done a keyboard interrupt, my master list was still being filled up. Cool. So we have a look here, we've got clinic name and we've got payment confirmation. So that's just completely wrong. This one here, we've got clinic name, and it looks like we've got a clinic name, which is correct. This one here, we've got clinic name, and it appears that we have, sorry, we can't find that practice. Now that's okay. These other ones appear to be okay. And then this one seems to be a bit of a sorry, we can't find that practice. So obviously our code's kind of working, but it could be a lot smarter. So let's start with this payment confirmation one. Now I want to have a look at this page and just see if there is a clinic name in there, or are we just stuck with nothing? So cool, alrighty. So that one definitely doesn't work, which is good to see. So what we might do is we might modify our code just slightly and go back to our original thinking, which was, it's kind of cool that we can, actually I'm thinking out loud, we could just leave this as is and just delete out these ones later. Now I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but rather than do a whole heap of rewriting, this isn't that bad, and I'll explain why. The next step from here is the final step in our process is to then have it as an Excel output. Alrighty, so they want all the clinic IDs and the clinic names. Now what we can actually get away with doing here is we could import pandas as PD. Now, if you're not familiar with pandas, it's an amazing data science package. It goes hand in hand with NumPy, which again is an amazing data science mathematics package. And we're going to use pandas to simply create what they call a data frame and then output that as a CSV. Now I'll show you how to do that from our master list. So, oh, and I've said as PD just as a shorthand way of referring to pandas. So create a variable. Now it's a terrible variable name, but df is what's used in all the examples. So data frame. Data frame is equal to pd dot capital D data capital F frame, and we're just going to pass in our master underscore list. Shift enter on that, and just like that, we now have a very nice data frame. And if you're looking at this thinking, geez, Adam, that looks a lot like Excel, you're pretty much correct, because I can do a dot to CSV, give it a name. We'll give it a name of clinic data, okay, .csv. Now, if I just outputted this as is, it will include this index column. I don't want that, so I'm going to say index equals false. Okay, shift enter on that, and then when I navigate to my folder, and just like that, we now have our clinic data available to us, and as you guessed, it is now available in Excel. Now, a couple fors and against why we would not include these. Obviously, it's not very hard to remove them. Okay, so if you look at these ones here, say payment confirmation or sorry, we can't find the page. We've got a couple of options. We can either, and probably one of the easiest ones would be to say, here we've got something that says masterlist.append. Now we can put that in a very simple if statement. Okay, so we could say if the clinic name, okay, and we could say that is not equal to, okay, and then we can pass in the different terms that we don't want it to be equal to. So payment confirmation, which is this one here, not equal to payment confirmation, or, okay, or is it and? No, it's not equal to, and it's not equal to, sorry. Alrighty, yeah, so we can do that one as well. And we'll make sure we got that correct. Does that have any? Yep. So what I'll point out here is we will have to use double quotes because this string, okay, has a single quote in it. And if I was to try to use single quotes, it will break. And that's one of the beautiful things about Python. You can use double or single. Now, what are we saying here? So if data diction, if clinic name is not equal to payment confirmation and it's not equal to, sorry, we can't find that practice, okay? Only if those two conditions are met, so it's not equal to either of those, then we will append that to the data dictionary. Now let's go ahead and run that again. Now we're going to run that all the way up to maybe 700, shift enter, shift enter. So this is going to go off and it's going to go ahead and do the exact same thing as before. So it's processed 12, 6, 90, 91, 92, okay, 93. Did that work? Which ones had the, it shouldn't have done, no, sorry, it will still print, but it won't necessarily load it into the master list. So let's go ahead and run through that and let's see if we've got that correct. And honestly, that is probably the main bits for this video. We've found some Upwork for $150. We've ran this piece of code. We're getting this output, which looks really nice. Let's go ahead and run that. And we look at our data frame here. Yeah, beautiful. So we can start to see here, it's only now bringing back those that do have a clinic name. And you can see that there is gaps in the numbers, which is by design. So before we had these ones that said payment confirmation and we had 92 and 98, we no longer have those. And again, if we just shift enter, close that one off and then open it up in here. Beautiful, then we can start to see. So what we can do is the final steps in this process is we can take a quick screenshot of that and we can submit a proposal. So we can jump in here and we can say, hey, I think I've been able to do exactly what you're asking for. And we'll do that now. And maybe in the following video, when we do some more of this making money with Python, I'll take you guys through the response and see how we've gone. So as always, thank you so much. Thank you so much for staying with me through this whole process. I hope this code made sense to you. If it didn't, please feel free to leave a comment. I try to reply to all of them. And as I said before, I've got this goal to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2020, which is about 6 months away. For most YouTubers that have been around for long enough, 1,000 subscribers isn't a lot to them, but to me it means the absolute world that I have 336 different people who are subscribed to my videos, and hopefully are getting some value out of them. So again, thank you so much, and I'm going to try to upload more often.